Welcome, low ego action heroes. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We are a full service CX and UX consultancy. And this is my Axure 10 Core Skills course. I've been using Axure since February 2011, and I've been teaching it for many, many years. And in fact, I've been one of Axure's recommended trainers since 2014. This course is designed to take you from super Axure newbie or Axure afraid all the way through to confident intermediate. So if you've landed on this one video, there are many, many others. Please check our Axure lessons playlist for a lot more videos about using Axure. The Delta CX YouTube channel has over 500 videos on it as of when I'm recording this in December 2021, and I hope you'll subscribe and join in some of our live streams. I'm live usually 3 or 4 times a week with teaching UX research and design, talking about CX, helping people get into the profession, helping leaders and managers, and of course, don't forget Tuesday, office hours, Ask Me Anything. So subscribe and hang out here. So thanks for being here. Please subscribe and let's jump into that next Axure lesson.
Now that we've built some drop lists, let's take some of that technique and take a look at what if we wanted to build a navigation menu or a mega menu. Now, I've done a little bit of pre-building here, so you can pause the video and catch up. I just brought out a box, just a rectangle. I dropped some words on it just to replicate a very simple website navigation menu, and I made 2 dynamic panels. Each has 1 state. This panel has 3 items in it, and really I just copied and pasted from our drop list, and I reconfigured these and recolored these, and the idea is that the products menu will be this one and the services menu will be this one. So make sure you are building these similarly to how we did the drop list, because hypothetically each of these might work separately from each other. They would have separate hover states and things like that. So use your same technique and build these out, and then unpause the video when you're ready to continue. Okay, I hope you've caught up. So now let's take a look at how we're going to build these to be realistic navigation menus. First of all, nobody can see these by default. So I'm going to grab both of them and I'm going to hit that eyeball, and that way they are now hidden. Also notice I named one of them Products Menu Panel, and I named one Services Menu Panel. I hope you gave your panels super relevant, helpful names. So now what if we want clicking on products to show its menu? Now you know me, we could click on the word products, but I like to be really nice to people and give them a larger tappable area. So I'm going to bring out a hotspot, and that way I can have a little bit more tolerance on here and be a better friend to our users. So I'm going to build on the hotspot, and again, it's just like our drop list. I'm going to say when people click on the products hotspot, we want to now there's just one panel state here, so we don't have to worry about setting the state. If you have multiple states, you have to worry about that. But we can then say show or hide the products menu panel, and it's up to you whether it has some sort of animation. You could have it slide down, you could have it fade in, totally up to you. I'll give it a slide down just so we can take a look at it. Now I'm going to preview this. Okay, so all I have to do is click here, and here is that panel. And of course, if that doesn't animate the way you like, you can change it. We don't have it where if people click products, that menu goes away. So let's flip over back to Axure and build that. So this is another example of where one event, clicking or tapping, is going to have 2 cases, and we're going to use conditions so Axure knows which one to run. So if menu not visible is what I'm calling it. Now we have to make the matching condition. It's not text on widget, it's can people already see the menu? Now it's not this is the hotspot. We don't care if they can see the hotspot or not. We want to know if the products menu panel is not visible. So visibility false. If they can't see it, they must be clicking on it to show it. And again, in the name of baby step testing, we can give that a quickie save. We can flip back and refresh and make sure that was the correct condition. Very good. Now we can go and write our other case. Double click, new case. What's this one going to do? If menu visible, so if they can see it, then the user intention is that they must be clicking on it to close it. So again, not this. This is the hotspot. It's the products menu panel, and if it's true, can they truly see it? Now that just gives us the condition. It doesn't tell Axure what to do, so don't forget to add your actions. What should happen if the product menu panel is visible and people are clicking? Then they must mean to hide it. Again, not this. This would be the hotspot. That is not going to help us. And just for fun, let's do a fade out. Okay, refresh, click, and click. And now if that's not the way you want your panel to work, that's totally fine. You can build yours to work the way you want. Sometimes people don't have that second click where either you are showing this thing or you've dismissed it or you've clicked on something else. Totally up to you. That second thing is optional. Now there's a couple of other things that we can play with here, so let's get to know them. One is treat as flyout. And this normally goes on a show. So let's double click and let's find where we are showing the panel. Let's go down to special behavior and let's add treat as flyout. And let me show you what treat as flyout will do. Let's refresh. Treat as flyout says, hey, when I am showing a panel, as long as this person is interacting with the panel, keep the panel here. But once they are not interacting with this panel, as soon as they have left this panel, even 1 pixel, make it go away. So there, as soon as you saw my mouse just leaving that panel, they made it go away. You cannot control the animation or speed or anything like that. It's just gone. So that's treat as flyout, and that might be something that you commonly want to use for a navigation menu, so it could be a good choice for you. Let's also take a look at another option we have, which is treat as lightbox. Now, treat as flyout is one way to go. Treat as lightbox is a little bit different. Treat as lightbox, and we'll do lightboxes again later in our time together, but you can use this to create kind of like an overlay panel where the rest of the screen is screened out, usually a slightly transparent dark color. But treat as lightbox can also work even if you do not use a slightly transparent dark color, and I'll show you what it does and we can see how it's different than treat as flyout. So if I click here, we've got our menu. Now in this case, Axure doesn't care where our cursor is, they care where we are clicking. So if we are clicking inside the panel, great, but as soon as we click anywhere outside of the panel will disappear. So if you like to have that persistent mega menu or navigation menu, then treat as lightbox might be for you. Now I'm going to click with my mouse over here, and you can see that menu is now gone. So again, treat as flyout was when the mouse left the panel, and treat as lightbox was when the mouse clicked somewhere other than the panel. Either one is fine. It's up to you and how you are doing your interaction design. I'm not going to say any one is better than any other. They each have different pros and cons, so you would need to choose that. Now, just to build really quickly, I'm going to take my hotspot and copy and paste the whole thing and put it over services. But of course, we're going to need to make some fixes here since all of our conditions are about the products panel, and then we're showing the products panel. So we may or may not have saved a lot of time with the copy paste, but I will need to go into the condition and change it from the products menu panel to whether or not people see the services panel. And I will need to change the action from show the products menu panel to show the services menu panel. And I will need to do that for the second case as well. So the newbie mistake there, and probably even a seasoned person mistake, would be to forget to fix both of these, only fix the first one, and then be surprised when your services button is doing weird things to your products panel. So there we go. Now we can baby step test this, do refresh, and say products comes down, looks good, and services comes down. Now it took some extra clicks there because the first click just made the light box go away. So you might say, oh, now I don't like that light box so much because the first click made the light box go away and the second click made services do that. Boom, not feeling it. So I'm going to quickly change these back to treat as light box, or I can just do none. That way this thing stays out until we tell it otherwise. So that's the services panel. And here's the products panel. I'm going to change it here as well, just no special behavior. And I don't need to change the hide because there's nothing special happening with the hide. There's no light box or fly out. It was only when we did show. So let's take a look, refresh again. Click on products, here's our menu. Click on services, here's our menu. Well, this is definitely working, but you can see that there's something unrealistic in that I'm getting both menus at the same time. And you're probably thinking, there can be only one. Well, yes and no. The problem is that Axure does not have some sort of selection group for things that are showing and hiding. So we're going to have to build this manually, and I'll show you the technique here. So we want to tell Axure, when you are showing the product menu, hide the services menu. Now, if you had a big navigation system here and you had 8 things going across, then you would have to say show 1, hide 2, hide 3, hide 4, hide 5, hide 6, hide 7, hide 8. It is a bit of boring manual work, but that's the way that you're going to have to build it. So here with only 2 things, we can move a little bit faster, but it's still, it's not hours of work, it's probably just minutes. So it's not the end of the world. We want to do add target. Hey, Axure, while you're showing or hiding the products menu, I also need you to handle something about the services menu. I need you to hide it. And maybe there's no animation here. Now, you don't need to do anything when hide because just think through it logically, critical thinking, user intentions. If we are hiding a menu, the other ones are already hidden. We did that here. So we don't have to say hide products and hide services. Services should already be hidden. But we do have to go into each of our menu items and teach Axure all of these targets. Hey, Axure, if you're showing services, I've got something else you need to deal with. It's products. I need you to hide products if we're showing services. So you can see how this would be time consuming but not difficult. So I can say show products, and then when I click services, it should say, aha, I've got to show services and hide the products menu, which would look like that. So that is working pretty nicely for us. And so I'm going to move on to the next part of our lesson, which is what if we want these menus to open up because of a mouse hover or a mouse over rather than a click. Now remember, you can certainly build that, and I'm not going to come to your house and yell at you, but you do want to remember that anything that you build that does not have some sort of click interaction is probably not going to work for mobile and won't work for people with certain accessibility needs. So do not go so mouse over crazy that some people can't use this. Now, because you probably want to see how I built this when you download my file, I'm going to copy and paste it so that we can learn our mouse over states on this other one. I'll just move it, oops, wacky. I'll just move it down, and then we will build some stuff on the products and services hotspots. So right now we have, hey Axure, if I click on these, here's what to do. Now we want to tell Axure, but here's what happens if someone puts their mouse over the hotspot. So that would be anywhere on the hotspot. So let's go back to events. This is not an action. This is the event that triggers Axure to do something. Now here, notice we have mouse enter and mouse hover. Holy cats, are they the same? Are they not? Let's build first around mouse enter, and then I'll build services with mouse hover, and you'll see the difference. So I can say I need mouse enter. Now you could say, what's going to happen on mouse enter? Well, if the menu isn't visible, we're going to show it. Well, holy cats, that's the same case as this. So let's click at the case level. Remember, not at the interaction level or we get all of this. We want to click at the case level where the case name is. I can do a context menu click and say copy. Then I can come down here and I can say paste, because really it's doing the same thing. One happens on a click and one happens on the mouse enter, but it's really the same. So let's baby step test that. Refresh. So now that products menu should come up as soon as my mouse hits the very first pixel of the hotspot, even before I've clicked. So moving mouse, up, and there we go. I touched the very first pixel and this thing appeared. And of course, if I want to make it go away, I can click it. That's the way I built it before. But this is a great time to be using something like treat as flyout, so that if people hang out on the menu and then they leave, then you might want that menu to go away. So think about that when you're doing your testing, and think about all of the kind of those granular moments of that interaction. But there's something that sucks about the on mouse enter. So whether you're using on mouse enter for navigation menus, or you're using it for tooltips, even though tooltips are usually not good user experience, because if you have to explain it, it wasn't intuitive. Notice that if I just want to blow past the navigation bar because there's a link or something above it that I want to get to, if I am just blowing past this, I'm going to trigger this menu. We've all been to websites that did that. We've all been to websites that had mouse over navigation bars or tooltips, and stuff is just triggering like mad, and we're like, oh, come on, couldn't you people build this differently? So that's the difference between on mouse enter and on mouse hover. Let's build on mouse hover over services so that we can see the difference. I'm going to go into the interaction editor. I'm going to add that new event, which is mouse hover. And again, I'm going to copy and paste the case because it's really doing the same thing whether people hover or click. And I'll hit save and we'll do refresh. So now products comes on the very first moment that I touch it at all. Services, on the other hand, I can blow by it, and it is not yet triggering because mouse hover for Axure requires the mouse to stay on the widget where you built this, which for us is the hotspot over services, for 1 second. So, one hippopotamus. And so that is the difference. Now, sometimes when I teach this, people go, oh, that was too slow. I want it to happen at 0.68 seconds. And I say, you know what? Axure is not built for that. For the purposes of prototyping and for the purposes of usability testing, the 1 second is probably okay. If your users say, gee, that menu seemed a little slow, you can say, oh, that's, I'm sorry, that's just the prototype. And you can always tell your developers at what speed you want this thing to come, or maybe there's a default one for things your company builds, but please don't get hung up on how you're going to change that. Axure does not have an easy way to change that. And I would say it works well enough for what you're trying to do. So the difference again there was as soon as you enter, that's why it's mouse enter, that hotspot, you're going to trigger this thing, whereas this is mouse hover because if the user stays there for 1 second, then the idea is, aha, their intention really is to trigger this versus the intention of, I'm just passing by. I'm passing by and this thing opened, but here I'm just passing by. I'm on my way to call to action somewhere else on the page. I'm just passing by. So that's why we have mouse hover for that hovering intention, and we have mouse enter for the moment that the mouse enters the widget. And again, to make a navigation menu a mega menu, the only difference is that you would go into your dynamic panel and you would make it bigger. If you are making a mega menu, you can make your dynamic panel bigger. We can go into it. Let's go into it. This is my background color. I used a rectangle here. You can also use a fill for the state, which we learn in pinned panels. And you could imagine that this mega menu has a little display ad of some sort. So again, it's totally up to you. The technique is the same. It's just the size of the panel and what's in it that would really be the difference between a mega menu and a regular menu. So there's that. Now it's big. So there's one more piece to this lesson that I would like to show you before we sail off to the next lesson, and that is, what if your menu has some sort of flyout submenu? So just for fun, I am going to copy and paste this services menu. Let's kind of drag it off to the side and build it out a bit. Let's imagine that in our products menu, item 2 has a submenu. So I'm going to call this products item 2 submenu, because you might end up with a whole lot of panels. There are some other ways to do this, but I think at least at the beginner level, you can build lots of little panels and line them up exactly where you want them, and this will go well enough. So let's take a close look at this one, and let's just change the background color so that when this menu flies out, we know we've got the correct one. I will use, well, bright yellow is a bit ouchy, especially with these weirdos here. But I'm just doing some quick manual styling just for the purposes of the lesson. You, of course, will be very, very good, and you will do global widget styling, and you will do it right, just like in our drop list lesson. Okay, so we know that when the yellow menu appears, we have our sub menu. So now we need to move it into place. Now we might have an exact number, or we might have a we might have to eyeball it. Now you can decide where this lives. This could live out here, outside of this panel, or it could actually be a panel inside of a panel. I know, mind-blowing, right? Well, let's cut it and let's paste it. So we could go into this and we could say, you know what? I've got a panel inside of a panel. And again, you could end up with multiple panels inside of the panel, one for each of these sub items. And I'm eyeballing this, but if I really want to get specific, I'm trying to drag out a guide. So no guides, Axure? Oh, that hurts. I was really hoping to have a guide here. Okay, so by default, this panel can't be seen. And we also want to make sure that this panel, the original panel, is going to be, where is it? Fit to content. If it is not fit to content, then when you try to show this panel, it's going to be cut off because your panel had a fixed size. You'll know this if you see the dotted line coming down here all the way, actually saying, yep, that's it. That's all the room you get. So we can say when someone clicks item 2, open up this panel, and you could have item 2, we could have item 2 and an icon like a chevron or a caret, totally up to you. But I'm going to build the interaction that says when someone clicks this, I want to show my, now where is it? Products. So notice it is a sub panel of this panel. Axure shows you this with the hierarchy. So this is a show, and maybe to get that kind of fly out look, we're going to say slide right, which is a left to right. We don't need an additional thing. It's already animated. And show. Let's take a look at that and baby step test it and see how we feel about it. So we built that up here. Products. Item 2, click, fly out. Now this is a great time where you probably want to use that treat as flyout, so that if my mouse left, this second yellow panel disappeared. So again, let's adjust our interaction to include the treat as flyout, which is down here under special behavior. Treat as flyout. Now let's refresh and see how that looks. So products, item 2, click, fly out, interact with the panel, leave the panel, and now I have the opportunity to show something else or click away from this. You just have to play with it. It ends up being lots of different menus and submenus that you can play with in Axure, but at least you can see here that we've got a more realistic menu and submenu system, as well as our super beautiful mega menu. All right, I think that covers it for our menus and navigation menus and mega menus lesson. Thanks, and see you in the next video.